everybody. This is Martha Davis Alexander with Through the Looking Glass with Martha. And this show is called Through the Looking Glass because we dig deep into past paradigms and things from now adult children of divorce. So this is relevant for everyone, and let me tell you why. It's relevant if you are just getting divorced to find out what the impacts could be of some stuff. It is relevant if you are dating someone who is either a child of divorce or divorced, so that you can understand some of the back stuff. And it's certainly relevant if your parents got divorced and you had it was ugly. So let me start by telling you tonight we're going to be talking about how do you release and shift an old paradigm, pattern, mindset, any of those words work. I just happen to like paradigm. So in order to move forward, you kind of have to release the stuff that's back behind you, the stuff that you're carrying around, those bags that we all tend to accumulate and carry. And if you'd like to set some of those bags down, tonight is the perfect night for you to listen, or it's the perfect time for you to watch this video. I'm going to give you some insights on how to release that old baggage that you have. To do that, I want to tell you my story. And if you're in the audience live, if you could give me a chat, tell me you're out there, and tell me that you'd like to hear my story. That would make me feel awesome. When I was 7, in 1968, when divorce didn't happen unless a judge said it could, it wasn't a right. The judge had to say it. And the judge, in fact, frequently said no. So I am from Iowa, fairly conservative state on occasion. And judges said no. Suck it up, buttercup. No, you can't have a divorce. So back in that day, I came home from somewhere. I was somewhere in the afternoon. And I came home, and my dad sat me down and said, we need to talk. I don't know what he exactly said. The gist of it was that my mom and 2 of my older brothers had moved out. That is a bone-crushing, heart-breaking, foundation-crumbling event in my life. And I had some baggage from that. My mom left, right? So I was left abandoned. Abandonment issues come in there. That was a whole big suitcase all on its own. And I had some others. One of the thing that I want to talk about tonight was an easy shift to make, because it's a great example that I can take from beginning to end. So I'm going to start there. We have talked before about people pleasing and fear and some of that. Tonight, I am going to focus on the methods of shifting an old paradigm, of releasing it and letting it be your past and not your present or your future. And that is the goal for all that old baggage, at least for me, is to release it so it no longer influences my present or my future, so that I can make choices without that filter on my eyes. So, my parents didn't like each other. I'm sure that is not a humongous shock that my dad didn't like my mom after she left. Well, my mom really didn't like my dad either. And so they I'm sorry, that was a silly word to use. They talked down about each other. They said horrible things to me about the other one. And maybe not so much. I mean, my dad implied it. His mom did a lot more of that destruction than my dad did. So grandmas out there, beware, what you say matters. And so what I learned from them not liking each other was that part of me wasn't likable or lovable. And it depended upon who I was with as to what part that was. So visitations became emotionally draining on me. It was a major endeavor. It wasn't just packing your bag. I know enough people who, spend a week packing their bag and planning what they're going to wear and making sure everything's in there and everything's clean. That wasn't what I had to do. I had to shift my whole being. In addition to packing all my stuff that I wanted with me for whether it was a weekend or a month or the summer or a week or holiday, whatever it was, I had to shift internally who I was, or I felt I had to do that. That is that survival skill I developed was when I went to see my mom. I took out all the things about me that were like my dad. And I'm very much my father's daughter, very much my father's daughter. So I had to kind of carve out the part of me that was my dad. And that took so much effort and so much work. And I was exhausted. And I'd go, and I felt I had to do that because I wanted to be loved, right? I wanted my mom who had left to love me, and she didn't like my dad. So if she didn't like my dad, she wouldn't like the part of me that was like my dad. I hope that's making sense. So I'd go see my mom. And if it was a weekend, that was even worse because, Friday you go and Sunday you come home. My parents didn't live close enough to each other that I could go to school, and it would be like it is for a lot of visitations. I used to be a family law attorney because I thought I could fix it that way. And my parents didn't do that. My mom lived like 45 minutes away in a different town. So we had weekends. And I didn't always get to see my brothers. That was kind of an issue. And when I was coming home on Sunday, I had to readjust, right? On the way home. How do you do that, right? How in that split moment that you're switched between parents, I had to learn how to adjust my personality and be back to who I was. And frankly, it took a longer adjustment period than probably anyone would have liked. And it was draining, heartbreaking, difficult, and to get used to changing who I was a huge piece of baggage. Now, let me tell you one of the things, and it's a little bit of a smaller bag. So we're going to unpack a smaller bag from this story tonight. The smaller bag is, and it's something I just recently became aware of. So these aren't all things that I've known all my life, right? You have to become aware of them. So I would plan a trip, and I love to go on trips. I love to go places. I love vacation. There's nothing I don't like about it, except that we'd plan it, and I'd be excited. And then I'd hesitate on the tickets. I'd hesitate on any of it. And even if we had tickets, at least around 2 weeks before we were to go, or when everyone was starting to get excited, I would completely shut down and say, no, I don't want to go. We should cancel. We shouldn't go. I'd start praying to get sick so that I didn't have to go. I'd start thinking, oh, this isn't going to work out. And it's not something that I was completely aware of. Now, come to find out, since I've been doing it since my husband and I got married and did it for our honeymoon, evidently, he's always known that I had about a 99% chance of wanting to cancel a trip, even if it's by car, family, non-family, it didn't make any difference. I always thought about canceling. Always brought up canceling. Maybe we won't go. Maybe it won't work. Maybe there will be a problem. Maybe whatever. I had so many excuses, and I could pull them out at the drop of the hat as to why whatever big trip we were doing would not work. Now, that sounds so odd, doesn't it? So odd. But it makes sense if you have my backstory. That for me, traveling, taking a trip, going somewhere, because frequently where I went was visitation. That was my biggest travel as a kid. Back in the day when you could actually get on a plane as a minor and the stewardesses would just pay attention and take care of you, and you were in a special place so the stewardesses could monitor you. It doesn't happen anymore. But anyway, I digress. Wow. So traveling for visitation, and what my mind created, what fear created in my mind that I needed to do for that, created this whole pathway that travel was to be avoided, and that it was just too much energy. It was too much to do. And frankly, when I was a kid and I was traveling, I knew who I was supposed to become when I got to the other end or when I got home. I knew what that looked like. But as an adult, it was very confusing for me. I'm going to Hawaii. Who am I supposed to be? Because I'm traveling. My mind was searching. What, wait a minute. I'm confused. I don't know how we're transforming for this. I don't know who we're supposed to be. And all of that, you got to understand, is behind the veil, right? That's in my amygdala, that little lizard part of your brain that hangs there, that colors your choices, your opinions, your thoughts, what you see, what you hear. And I wasn't even aware that it was there. That was an old paradigm that didn't ring true anymore. So, what do I have to do to shift that? And before I get there, what did it create in my present? What did it create? So, sadly enough, my kids all knew that the likelihood of me wanting to cancel, and they tampered their enthusiasm about a vacation because I was always reluctant. My husband always knew. And so now I only actually canceled maybe 5 or 10% of the time, not that often, because I don't know why. I just didn't. I pushed through. And yet my family always knew that that was going to be my response. And it dampened and kind of took some of the joy out of those trips and out of getting ready for it. And that's too bad. I mean, I have kids that will pack totally last minute. I have a son who, when we went to Hawaii, was doing his laundry at 3 a.m. and we were leaving at 5 a.m. So because they really think that maybe I am going to cancel. So I discovered this March, April. I have a group. There's a group of 8 of us. We went through coaching training together, and we are all really close. We call ourselves the 8s. We'll get a better name. So if you have a suggestion, go ahead and shove it in the chat. we were having a retreat because our program was going to have a graduation and it had to get canceled because of COVID. So we decided that we would do our own retreat, and we were going middle of the country because that kind of brought everybody from both sides were spread out all over the country. And it was so exciting. I was so excited about where we were going and what we were doing and the things and just getting together. This whole program had been virtual, and I was so excited about it. And all of a sudden, one of my friends texted to the group, we have a group chat, we talk frequently, and she texted to the group, "Hey, I got my airline tickets today." And I went, "Oh, yeah, no, now it's too real. Now, who am I going to be when I go?" Right? So I didn't know that was my thought. I didn't know that's what I was struggling with. But all of a sudden I went, no, I think I have to cancel. And so I went on. Keep in mind, these are my coaching sisters. So we all went through Fearless Living coaching training program together. So I took a risk and was very vulnerable with them. And I sent a text that said something like, I am struggling right now. That really, the fact that one of you got your tickets really triggered some fear in me. And I am really having a hard time. All of a sudden, I saw this bag of baggage. And I'm like, where is this from? Why does this happen? Why is it happening now? I don't understand. And I'm very fortunate because one of them immediately called me and said, let's chat, sit down, take a seat, and let's talk about it. So I want to share with you a couple of things that we're going to go through in the second half of the show. We're going to talk about the steps to take to shift that paradigm. Right? When you become aware of it, what you need to do. We're going to talk about how sometimes old baggage affects your current family, your present, and your future. We're going to talk about the steps, and we're going to kind of go into detail. So because I want you to be able to take that old bag and open it up and say, wow, I see how that filter, how that mindset, how that paradigm so helped me when I was a kid. I see why that was so important to me to survive what I was going through as a kid or at this time or whenever it was for you. I see how valuable that was for me. And now I need to decide if it still suits me or not. And there's a process to making that choice. There's a process to go through to become aware of it. And I want to share all of that with you. And I want to point out that when I came in after talking to my friend, we're going to get to all of that in the second half of my show. And I'll just finish the story of this. I went inside after talking to my friend. And when my husband came home and we were in the kitchen, we were cooking dinner, and I said, so I realized something today. This is what I went through. Honest to goodness. My husband looked at me and said, yeah, it's been our whole marriage. You didn't know that? It's like, no. I didn't know it was a pattern or a habit. And my daughter looked at me and said, really? You didn't know that? Everybody knows that you're going to do that. Everybody, your friends, everybody knows you're going to do that. And I thought, wow, that's a lot of people knowing that I have a bag. They may not have known where it was from, but they knew that there was something. They may not even seen the bag, but they knew that I had a habit or a pattern of canceling travel. It's a pattern. It's a paradigm. Wow. It is so powerful to have that. So powerful to be aware of that. So I don't know if they had said to me, do you realize this is something you do? Would I have figured it out sooner? Maybe. Likely. It's possible. Was that even in their vocabulary to do that? Maybe not. It is now. Now they know that if they see a pattern, I would love for them to say, hey, I see this pattern. Is that something you want to talk about or look at, or is that true, right? Are you aware of it? Because awareness is your first step. Knowing it, seeing it, becoming aware that that bag exists. It's the first part of it. So here's what I'm going to do. Pretty quick, we're going to go to a break. It's a quick break. There's music. I dance to it. Would love you to dance to it. And then we're going to talk about how you gain the awareness, what you do with the awareness, and how you shift that paradigm to something that will support you and your dreams in the future. We'll be right back. This is Martha Davis Alexander. I'm a certified fearless living coach. I have Through the Looking Glass with Martha, and that is throughthelookinglasswithmartha.com. And my email is marthadalexander@gmail.com. My phone number is 805-422-6865. If any of this resonates with you, get in contact with me and let's have a chat and see if I can help you. We'll be right back with the tools you need to shift a paradigm. Hey, we're back. Welcome back. This is Martha Davis Alexander. I am a recovering attorney. I used to do family law. I am also a certified fearless living coach. I have Through the Looking Glass with Martha.com, and this show is Through the Looking Glass because we take a deep dive into baggage from my childhood, how I healed it, and how others can do the same. Email me at marthadalexander@gmail.com. Sorry, brain fart. Okay. Before we talked about my story, how I found that how I kind of linked that baggage, how I linked it back. The truth is we don't start by oh, this happened and this is the baggage from it. We start with the baggage, right? That's where we start. So awareness. I became aware when all of a sudden I panicked and wanted to cancel something that I'd really looked forward to, a girls' weekend. Because in 2021, we all deserved a girls' weekend. We all deserved a weekend or a week or whatever it was. And I didn't want to go. I wanted to cancel to something that I really wanted to do and that I'd really helped plan and looked forward to. So how did that awareness hit? We're going to talk about that a little bit because awareness is that first step. It's not just, oh, all of a sudden you get a text message that says, hey, awareness here. You have some baggage and you need to look at it, or this is a thing. So one of the things that we do is we look at when something like that comes up. You know that feeling in your body. So awareness starts with being aware of what you are feeling. Here's the deal. I went to a therapist once and she said, where do you feel this in your body? And I was like, lady, you are nuts. I don't feel things in my body. I'm thinking about it. My body, my stomach feels hunger. I feel thirst. That's about it. Because that's how I was raised. That's how most of us are raised to in a lot of ways, to ignore, particularly my age, to not actually acknowledge our feelings, or that feelings manifest first in our body. That's a sign. Our body's giving us a sign that we are in fear or that we have something coming up around that. That is a signal to us, and our body tells us that. So for me, I had dread in my gut. My gut tightened, my throat tightened, my heart clenched. I was totally, I was crying. I was having a hard time breathing. That was extreme. But I had so many conflicting emotions going on, right? I was disappointed for me that I wanted to cancel something that I was so looking forward to. I was scared to death to go. All these things were coming up. So the first thing I did was, with awareness, I had to name those things. I had to say, this is how I'm feeling. Why? What is that? Where do I get that emotion from? Because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to take something that I'm so excited about and to all of a sudden have panic I can't go, when actually someone I adored had just made their tickets. That should have made me really excited, right? Oh my gosh, it's really happening. Let's go. I'm going to make my tickets too, is what I thought might happen. And instead, I went, oh, holy shit. No, I got to cancel. I can't go. I can't do this. I can't be this person. Well, what does that mean? So I became aware that there was, that something was there. So my friend walked me through. So, you feel that. What's that about? What's the first thing that pops into your head? I don't like to travel. What? I thought you loved to travel. Yes, so did I. I don't know why I said that. So what's behind that? Well, I don't want to have to change. Why do you have to change to come see us? We know who you are. You've been vulnerable with us. We've shared lots of stuff. I'm like, so I don't. But that's what travel means to me. And I started unpacking what travel meant and what was inside this bag that I'd been carrying around for 50 years. Awareness. Identifying the feelings. So the reason I'm adding the identify the feelings in here, I didn't need to delve too deeply into that here because, well, I didn't. So I'll just go with it. You identify the feelings and how you're feeling. And then the next time you feel it, you can go, wait a minute. We identified this as this. For me, it was the travel bag. I identified this as my travel bag. So what's going on? Why is that paradigm coming up right now? Why am I feeling that right now? So when you're in that moment of feeling, you can take, one of my favorite things to do is really deep breaths, because that calms your body down and takes you into your body and allows it to flow. So really deep breath in for a count of 7 or 8. Hold it for a count, if you can, 5 or 7, and release it slowly. And do that 4 or 5 times. And you will all of a sudden not have that feeling. And you can look at that from a grounded place, from a place where you can go, that's really interesting. Let me look at that. So we've covered being aware. We've covered understanding how your body reacts, being aware of how your body reacts so that you can be aware of it the next time. Now, I'm going to tell you something. This one was a one and done, permanent, I'm good. Not all of them are like that. There are some very complicated ones. People pleasing is a very complicated bag. It's huge. It's got a lot of stuff in it that I got to take out and look at and deal with to see through different eyes. There's a lot packed in that bag. And travel one was easy. So here's the thing. I want you to be gentle because those pathways have been there for a long time. And you're not going to change it in one day. It's not one sitting generally. This, like I said, this was a pretty, well, it's a meaty bag. It wasn't a major thing. It was my travel bag. So one and done, I'm hoping. So all my travels since then, and I've had a cruise. I went on that trip and I've gone on a cruise. And I've gone to see my mom in Iowa. So I've had some travel in there and I was not triggered. I didn't have to have any change in my mindset for that. I think I completed that change. So what are the other things that you look at? What I was getting to, sorry, I digress. Be gentle because you may, in fact, realize it 2 hours after. Or, when you say to someone X, Y, and Z, if I said to my husband, I want to cancel, he would come back with, do you want to look at that? Is that your bag? Is that a bag? And that would give me the opportunity to breathe and get through it and shift my mindset. So if you're not aware of it immediately, be gentle. It's okay. That bag's been there for a long time. And its job is to move around so you don't see it, to not be aware of it. That's why the feelings, when you feel the feelings, that's a great place to breathe and think. If you don't have the time for that, or if it's 2 weeks later or 2 hours later, that's a great opportunity to look at that and say, wow. So if I can pinpoint, if it's 2 hours ago, can I pinpoint when that feeling was there and what would support me next time if I remembered? How could I support myself in becoming aware a little earlier, right? It's all practicing. It's all looking at it, being aware, and being willing to practice looking at things. Okay. So the next step is you might need to vent about it. You might need to say, oh my golly. All right, I normally wouldn't say that. I'd say, oh my God, my parents did this to me. And I would vent. I would, when I was talking to my friend, I vented. I got all of that anger out. If she hadn't been there to listen to me, there are other venting partners that I have, or I could have written a letter to them, or I could have journaled about it, what I was feeling, written it down, just kept going with the flow, not really thinking about it, just writing and writing and writing. Now, I want to explain the difference. As I was trained in Fearless Living by Rhonda Britton, venting is different than complaining. If you're complaining, you're keeping the energy in. You just want to bitch about something. You just want to gripe, and you're going to gripe about it tomorrow and maybe the next week. Venting has a purpose. It is an intentional getting it out, speaking it, and moving that energy through your body, because you've held that energy. That's what the bag is. It's all that energy that you've held. You're just going to move that energy out by talking about it, or by journaling it, or by speaking it. You can speak it to your dog. Doesn't really matter, because for the most part, when you're venting, you're not really looking for someone to respond or reply. So if someone wants to vent to you, make sure you ask them, hey, are you just moving? Are you just venting? Or do you want me to respond? Do you want me to fix it? I never want someone to fix it. My husband has had to learn that. So venting is a great thing. With that venting, you may find you need to do some forgiveness. There may need to be some forgiveness work in some of these things. Forgiveness doesn't have to be done with the other person. I'm going to say that again. Forgiveness does not have to be done with the other person. You can acknowledge that there is a reason to forgive, and you can choose to forgive them. And you can do this in a letter. You can do it. I prefer writing it. And I write long, just flow of consciousness. This and this and this and this. And I'm thinking about being willing to forgive you. And as I write more, I might be willing to forgive you. And as I write more, I'm willing to forgive you. And as I write a little bit more, I forgive you. I release that energy and I let it go. A great way to release that energy is through the elements. Either you can drown the piece of paper or you can burn it. I prefer burning. You don't ever have to tell the person, hey, I went through this and I forgave you. Forgiveness, holding that resentment is only harmful to us. They might not know, it might not be an issue. They might be dead. It's the release of the energy in you that you've held that anger for so long, and the forgiveness moves that out. It's another bag. You can move that out and release that. The other thing you might want to do, and now I have to put on my glasses. I'm sorry. I'm blind. So when you release all that, and I know I'm out of time, but we're going to go a little long. When you release all of that, you got to replace it with something. You can't leave that part of your brain empty. Your brain and your body and that amygdala have to know what you want instead. So as you're going through this process, you're figuring out, who do you want to be? How do you want to show up? And what mindset do I want? What do I want in place of that? What is it that will serve my future goals and dreams? What mindset do I want to replace it with? So for the travel, as an example, the new mindset I wanted, I was happy to say the old mindset does not serve my needs, my goals, or my dreams. I am willing to release that and let it go. And then I needed to replace it with a new mindset. And the new mindset was, my new mindset, what I want is to travel freely with an adventurous spirit and joy. And that's what I want. That's what I want. So that's what I replaced. Adventurous spirit and joy. You have to decide how you want then to see, right? Because now I see travel through the eyes of adventure and joy, because I set that. I said that's how I want to do it. That's my mindset, and that's what I want to do. It takes practice. So if that old mindset came back, I'd say, oh, no. We do not view it from the fear of a child. We view it from adventure and joy. That is how we choose to do that. And you just retrain, you work on retrain. You don't just, it takes time, effort, and quite frankly, consistency and dedication. And it's well worth it. Changing that. This is how we're going to now view travel. This is how we're going to view whatever it is, people pleasing or communication or whatever. And we'll talk about all of these on the show at some point. So stay tuned, because we will talk about that. And the last thing you want to do is set your boundaries. What are your boundaries? So for something like travel, I don't really have boundaries. It's not really a gig for me. But for something like people pleasing, I need to tell myself in that new mindset, what are the parameters of the mind shift, right? What are the parameters of that? What does that look like for me? What's the structure? What am I willing to say yes to? What am I not willing to say yes to? How do I want to approach things that have always been an instantaneous yes? So really kind of setting, what is it that I want this mindset to look like, and having those boundaries and what you want in there. And then, of course, the last thing, you can remind yourself what your new mindset is. If it's a big baggage, you're going to need to remind yourself maybe daily. I am willing to practice, again, language by Rhonda Britton. I am willing to practice this as my mindset. I am willing to practice being this. I am willing to practice, for me, I am willing to practice viewing travel with adventure and joy. Makes me want to go on a trip. How about you? You up for a cruise? So, and the very last thing is probably the most important. Be gentle with yourself. The reason I say, the reason be willing to practice is what we say, is because fear can't get its teeth in your practicing. You don't fail if you're practicing. You just learn and grow. It's a growth mindset, opportunity mindset. Be willing to practice whatever your new mindset is. We will discuss this more, but I am out of time today. I'm so sad to say. I have so enjoyed this time with you. I hope you enjoyed it as well. This is Through the Looking Glass with Martha on the Going Solo Network. And it will be up as a recording as well, so you can review it. My phone number is 805-422-6865. You can reach me via email at marthadalexander@gmail.com or on my website at throughthelookingglass.withmartha.com. That's throughthelookingglasswithmartha.com. On my website, it has an attachment to my schedule. If you would like a free 1-hour discovery call to see if I can help with any shifting of paradigms, feel free to get on there and schedule a 60-minute call with me. It's completely free. You never know. Have a phenomenal week until we come back next week. Again, Martha Davis Alexander, Through the Looking Glass with Martha, and be fearless. Shift those mindsets, have that positive outlook, and let's start to release old paradigms so that you can go for your dreams. Go for your dreams, peeps.